The evening sunlight filtered through the half-drawn curtains, painting long golden streaks across the living room. The smell of cardamom tea lingered faintly, though the cup on the table had gone cold long ago. Mira sat quietly on the edge of the sofa, her hands folded neatly on her lap, her eyes lowered. Across from her stood her daughter, Enea, tall, poised, and beautiful, wearing a silk sari that Mira had once saved 3 months' salary to buy. "Amma," Enea began, her voice tense, almost rehearsed. "You know Rohan doesn't like interference." Mira looked up slowly, her gentle eyes trying to read her daughter's expression. "Interference? I only asked if he'd like to have dinner now or later. The food will spoil." Anaya sighed sharply, her patience thinning. "It's not just that. He says you make him uncomfortable. He feels like he's being watched." The words fell like small stones into the silence between them. Mira's heart twisted not from anger, but from disbelief. Watched. She had spent the last 28 years watching only one thing, her daughter's happiness. From the moment Anaya was born, tiny, red-faced and wailing, Mira had promised herself she would never let her feel the loneliness Mira herself had endured. "I'm sorry," Mira murmured softly. "I didn't mean to, Ma." Anaya interrupted, her tone shifting into something colder. "You're making this house tense. Rohan works so hard, and when he comes home he wants peace. You don't understand how to live in a modern household." The words "modern household" stung more than they should have. Mira's throat tightened. Once she had believed that education and marriage would make Anaya independent, not distant. "Then tell me, Anaya," Mira said quietly, "what should I do?" There was a long pause. Then Anaya said the words that Mira would never forget for the rest of her life. "Either learn to serve Rohan like family or leave." The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silence that followed. Outside, a stray dog barked somewhere in the distance. Something inside Mira's chest cracked silently, invisibly. She stared at her daughter, the same girl whose hair she'd braided every morning before school, whose fever she'd stayed up all night nursing, whose dreams she'd fueled with every sacrifice a mother could make. "Serve him," Mira repeated softly, like a servant. Anaya shifted uncomfortably, but didn't meet her eyes. "He's my husband, Ma. He deserves respect. You can't talk to him however you want." Mira blinked back, the sting in her eyes. "Respect," she whispered, "of course." Rohan walked in then, tall, confident, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar. "Is this still going on?" he said, glancing between them with irritation. "Anaya, I told you if your mother can't adjust, maybe she should find her own place. It's not good for our marriage." He didn't even look at Mira when he said it. He simply picked up the car keys from the counter and left, whistling softly. The front door shut with a loud click. Anaya stood frozen for a moment, then turned to Mira. Her voice softened slightly, perhaps with guilt. "Ma, please understand. He's stressed. He doesn't mean it harshly." Mira smiled then, not bitterly, not angrily, but with a strange calm. "I understand, Beta. I always have." She rose slowly, walked to her small room, and opened the old wooden wardrobe. Inside was a worn suitcase, brown leather with scuffed corners, the same one she had carried when she first moved into her husband's home decades ago. It still smelled faintly of sandalwood and old memories. She began folding her saris neatly, one by one. The blue one she wore at Anaya's graduation, the pink one from her first job interview. Each fold carried a story, a memory, a piece of her life that no one had cared to ask about. Anaya watched from the doorway, confusion flickering in her eyes. "Ma, what are you doing?" Mira didn't answer immediately. She zipped the suitcase shut, took a deep breath, and turned to face her daughter. "You gave me a choice," she said softly, "and I'm simply choosing." Anaya's lips parted, panic creeping in. "Ma, wait, I didn't mean—" "It's all right," Mira said, her tone still gentle. "You're right, every home needs peace. I'll go where I can find mine." She walked past her daughter, her steps steady, her voice unwavering. She paused only once at the doorway, looking back at the home she had built, the curtains she had chosen, the framed photos of a smiling child. the kitchen that once smelled of laughter and love. "Take care of yourself, Anaya," she whispered, "and take care of him. You'll need each other." Then, without another word, she lifted her suitcase, stepped out into the quiet evening, and closed the door behind her. The sky was turning a dusky purple. A cool wind brushed against her face as she walked down the lane, the wheels of her suitcase rolling softly over the ground. For the first time in years, she didn't know where she was going, and for the first time that didn't scare her. Behind her, the house stood silent. Inside, Anaya stared at the empty sofa, at the half-finished cup of tea, at the echo her mother left behind. She didn't realize it yet, but that echo, that silence, would soon be deafening. The first morning after Mira left, the house felt strangely hollow. The smell of filter coffee did not linger in the kitchen. The faint humming of an old devotional song wasn't there to break the stillness. Anaya woke up to a silence that clung to her skin like dust. She tried to brush it off. "It's just a day," she told herself. "She'll call, she always does." But Mira didn't call. Rohan seemed unbothered. If anything, he looked relieved. "Finally, we can live like adults," he said with a smirk as he adjusted his tie. No emotional drama, no motherly lectures. Anaya managed a weak smile. But that night, when she sat at the dining table, she noticed how empty it looked. There was no second serving of dal, no small bowl of curd placed by instinct, no hand pushing the roti basket closer to her. Just Rohan scrolling through his phone, the glow from the screen reflecting on his indifferent face. By the third day, the silence had grown heavier. Anaya found herself standing outside her mother's old room, the air still faintly scented with sandalwood and lavender oil. Her eyes fell on the small wooden temple mirror used to decorate every morning. The diya was unlit, its wick blackened from yesterday's flame. A pang of guilt shot through her. Asterisk, she didn't even take her deity with her. Asterisk, Anaya called twice that day. Once in the morning, once before bed. Both times the phone rang until it went silent. No answer. Hash 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 asterisk asterisk. Meanwhile, miles away asterisk asterisk Mira sat by a window in a small coastal town, watching waves crash against the shore. The sea breeze tousled her gray hair, and for the first time in years she felt light. The guest house she stayed in belonged to Mira, an old friend she hadn't spoken to in decades. "Of all people," Mira said as she poured tea, "I never thought you'd show up at my door with a suitcase." Mira smiled faintly. "Life has a strange sense of humor." They both laughed softly, the sound mingling with the distant cry of seagulls. Mira's husband, Rajiv, was once Rohan's rival, a man pushed out of a business partnership years ago because of Rohan's deceitful tactics. Mira didn't know the details then, but she remembered the strain on Anaya's wedding day when Rohan avoided introducing Rajiv's name. "Do you know what he did to us, Mira?" Mira asked, eyes darkening. "He forged documents, made us look like the cheaters. We lost everything." Mira stirred her tea slowly. "I didn't know," she said quietly, "but now, perhaps I do." For a moment, the two women sat in silence, the waves filling the gaps in their memories. By the fifth day, Rohan's life began to show small fractures. A major client suddenly canceled a deal, citing loss of trust. An email with confidential documents had been leaked, showing financial inconsistencies, manipulations, and false records. Rohan blamed an employee, but the timing felt uncanny. Bad luck, he muttered, pacing the living room. "Someone's trying to ruin me." Anaya watched him, her stomach twisting. She didn't know why, but a part of her felt that her mother's silence had something to do with the sudden storm gathering around them. That night, Anaya had a dream. She saw her mother standing in the rain, eyes filled not with anger, but with quiet disappointment. Behind her, waves crashed violently, and in her hand, Mira held a flickering lamp. When Anaya tried to reach her, the sea rose and swallowed everything. She woke up in tears, her chest heavy. The clock showed 3:12 a.m. Without thinking, she dialed Mira's number again. It rang and rang until it went dead. Hash 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 asterisk asterisk. Back at the coast asterisk. Mira sat at her small wooden desk, the soft glow of a lamp falling on her lined face. In front of her were old photographs, Anna's childhood, her wedding day, and a family picture with Rohan smiling proudly beside her daughter. She traced a finger along the frame. You wanted peace. She murmured softly, and I wanted respect. She looked at her phone, 8 missed calls from Anna. Her thumb hovered over the callback button, but she didn't press it. Instead, she opened her old notebook, the one where she had once written her household expenses and savings. At the bottom of the page was a small note from Rajiv's company. Asterisk, confidential partnership documentation. Asterisk, a flicker of steel crossed Mira's eyes. She had always been a simple woman, but life had taught her that silence was not weakness. It was power, waiting for the right moment. By the end of the week, Rohan's calm veneer had shattered. The company's shares dropped. The police began investigating the leak. Anna tried to stay strong, but she was terrified, not just for their future, but of what karma might be unfolding before her eyes. She called her mother again, once, twice, 20 times. All went unanswered. On the 7th day, there were asterisk 22 missed calls asterisk on Mira's phone. She looked at them quietly, her heart trembling with something between sorrow and strength. Then she placed the phone down beside her and whispered, asterisk, you never answered me when I needed you. Asterisk, it began on a Monday morning, the kind of day when the sky hung low and gray, as though even the heavens were tired of pretending everything was fine. Anna sat at the breakfast table, staring at the untouched toast before her. Rohan paced the living room like a caged lion, his voice sharp and brittle as he spoke into his phone. I don't care what the auditors say, he barked. Fix it before the news hits the press. Do you hear me? Before. He slammed the phone onto the counter, his face red with anger. Anna flinched. What happened now? She asked carefully. Another client pulled out. He said through gritted teeth. Some anonymous source sent them files, old deals, contracts, even the forged tax returns. How the hell did anyone get those? Anna's pulse quickened. Forged, you mean? Rohan cut her off. It's just business, Anna. Everyone does it. But someone's out to destroy me. He stalked toward the window, running a hand through his hair. For the first time, Anna noticed how different he looked, disheveled, tense, almost afraid. A part of her wanted to reach out and comfort him. But another part, a quieter, sharper part, whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was what her mother had meant when she said, asterisk, you'll need each other. Asterisk, that afternoon, a journalist called. By evening, the first article went live. Asterisk, a business tycoon Rohan Mehta under investigation for corporate fraud. Asterisk, by nightfall, Rohan's company website was flooded with angry comments. Investors had gone silent, and the phones wouldn't stop ringing. The empire he had built on arrogance and deceit was cracking, and he could hear every brick falling. Anna stood by helplessly as her husband cursed, shouted, and drank himself into a stupor. The house, once proud and modern, felt like a tomb filled with the ghosts of their own choices. She tried calling her mother again. It rang once, twice, then cut off. No answer. Her hands trembled. Ma, please, she whispered into the receiver, her tears falling freely. Please, just talk to me once. Hash 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 asterisk. Meanwhile, asterisk, Mira sat at her small seaside desk, watching the tide pull in. On her phone, the news notification glowed. Asterisk, Rohan Mehta under investigation, financial fraud exposed by anonymous whistleblower. Asterisk, she read it once, then placed the phone down. Her tea had gone cold. The wind carried the scent of salt and rain. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, slowly, she closed her eyes and whispered, May truth do what I never could. Her old friend Mira entered the room quietly, holding a shawl. "It's done," Amira said. "The documents reached the right hands. The authorities will handle the rest." Amira nodded, her expression unreadable. "I didn't want revenge," she said softly, "only balance." Mira placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You didn't destroy him, Mira. You revealed him. There's a difference." Mira smiled faintly, perhaps. Outside, the waves crashed against the rocks, steady, unyielding, timeless. Just like the strength she'd found within herself. Hash 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 asterisk asterisk back at the city. Asterisk asterisk by the fourth day of the investigation, Rohan's company had officially collapsed. He'd lost investors, clients, and credibility. The government had frozen his accounts. Anaya sat alone in the same living room where her mother had once sat quietly, humiliated and unheard. Now the silence was hers to endure. She looked around the house, the designer furniture, the marble floor, the untouched corners that Mira used to keep spotless. It all felt meaningless now. She found herself walking into her mother's old room. The cupboard was empty, but the faint scent of sandal wood still lingered. On the shelf, hidden behind an old photo frame, she found a folded note. Her hands trembled as she opened it. It wasn't a letter, just a few words written in Mira's graceful handwriting. Asterisk, love should never demand servitude. It should create peace. Asterisk, Anaya sank to the floor, clutching the note to her chest, the weight of her guilt pressed down until she could hardly breathe. She had thought herself modern, independent, but in chasing respectability, she had betrayed the one person who had taught her what love really was. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "Ma, what have I done?" That night, Rohan didn't come home. The police had raided his office, and rumors of arrest were already spreading. Anaya sat by the window, staring at her phone. The call log glowed, asterisk asterisk 22 missed calls to Ma. Asterisk asterisk all unanswered. She typed one more message, her fingers shaking. "Ma, please, I'm sorry. I can't do this without you." She hit send. The message showed asterisk delivered asterisk, but not asterisk seen. Asterisk hash 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 asterisk asterisk at the cottage by the sea asterisk asterisk Mira's phone buzzed quietly on the nightstand. The screen lit up with Anaya's message. She looked at it for a long time, her heart aching with memories of small hands clutching her own, of laughter shared over simple meals, of lullabies hummed under the same roof that now echoed with regret. She didn't reply, not yet. Instead, she walked outside, the moonlight silvering her hair. The ocean stretched before her, vast, forgiving, eternal. For the first time in years, she felt peace, not as an obligation, but as a choice. Mira joined her at the porch. "She'll come," she said gently, "sooner or later." Mira smiled softly, eyes on the horizon. "When she learns to walk toward love, not pride, I'll be here." Back in the city, Anaya's world was collapsing. Reporters stood outside the gate, flashing cameras. The neighbors whispered. Rohan had been taken in for questioning. She sat alone in the living room, clutching her mother's note, whispering her name into the emptiness, over and over again. "Ma, please come back." But the only answer was the hollow ticking of the same clock that had marked the moment she'd told her mother to leave. And somewhere miles away, beneath a soft gray sky, Mira stood by the sea and whispered, "Sometimes silence teaches what words never could." Rain came back to the city after weeks of dry wind. It wasn't a heavy downpour, just a steady, whispering drizzle that darkened the roads and softened the edges of noise. Anaya stood at the bus station, her umbrella forgotten, rain soaking through the sleeves of her sexpensive blouse. She looked smaller now. The woman who had once moved through rooms with practiced elegance was gone. All that was left was a daughter carrying a folded piece of paper that smelled faintly of sandalwood. The note from her mother: Rohan had been arrested the previous week. The papers said asterisk, fraud, asterisk, the television said asterisk, justice, asterisk, and the neighbors said nothing at all. The house had been seized, the cars sold, and most of the staff had vanished. Anaya had pawned her jewelry for bail money, but it wasn't enough. In the end, she had no one to call except the one person she had told to leave. She looked down at her phone again, the same number, still in her favorites. One ring, two, and then, for the first time in months, a click. Ma, silence at first, then a voice as calm as she remembered. Anaya. Anaya's breath caught. Ma, I didn't know where else to go. I'm sorry. Please, just tell me where you are. On the other end, there was only the soft hiss of the sea wind. Then I'll send you the address. The line went dead. Asterisk asterisk, the journey asterisk asterisk, the bus rattled through narrow roads bordered by palms and mist. Every turn seemed to peel away another layer of the life Anaya had built on pride. By the time it reached the small coastal town, the sun had dipped low, and the air smelled of salt and wet earth. Mira's cottage stood at the edge of the shore, painted in quiet shades of white and blue. A small lamp glowed in the window. Anaya walked up the stone path, her suitcase thudding softly against the wet ground. She hesitated at the door, heart pounding like a guilty child's, then knocked. It opened almost immediately. Mira stood there, thinner, her silver hair tied neatly back. Her eyes held the same warmth Anaya remembered, but also something steadier, older, untouched by desperation. For a long moment neither spoke. Rain whispered between them. Finally, Anaya broke. She fell to her knees, clutching Mira's hands. Ma, please forgive me. I said such awful things. I drove you away. I thought I was doing the right thing. Her voice cracked. But I lost everything. I lost Rohan, our home, my dignity. And you lost me. Mira didn't pull her hands away. She knelt down, lifted Anaya's chin gently, and looked into her eyes. Beta, she said softly, I didn't lose you. You lost yourself. I just stepped aside so you could find your way back. Anaya broke into tears. Mira let her cry, her fingers moving through her daughter's hair the way they used to when she was a child. No anger, no reproach, just a mother's quiet understanding. When the tears stopped, Mira guided her inside. The cottage smelled of jasmine and sea salt. A small stove burned in the corner, and 2 cups of chai steamed on the table. Sit, Mira said. You look tired. Anaya obeyed. Ma, how did you live like this, so far from everything? Mira smiled faintly. Peace doesn't need much space, only room to breathe. Asterisk asterisk, the truth asterisk asterisk later, as the rain thickened, Anaya asked the question she had been afraid to voice. Was it you? The files, the leaks about Rohan? Mira didn't answer immediately. She poured more tea, the sound gentle and deliberate. I didn't plan it, she said finally, but life has a way of returning what you give it. The truth had been sitting quietly, waiting for someone brave enough to send it where it belonged. Brave enough, Anaya echoed. You mean you. Mira's eyes softened. No, Mira sent them. I only stopped her from burning them. Rohan built his house on deceit. All I did was refuse to guard his walls. Anaya looked down, shame pressing against her ribs. I deserved the ruin too. Mira reached across the table, taking her daughter's hands again. No, you deserved to learn. That's all. Asterisk asterisk, the renewal asterisk asterisk in the weeks that followed. The 2 women found a rhythm together again. They woke before sunrise, walked along the beach, and cooked simple meals. Mira taught local women to stitch and read. Anaya helped with accounts, her hands awkward at first, but slowly steadying. Together they started a small workshop, a women's center that offered work to widows and single mothers. Sometimes, when Mira saw Anaya laugh with the women or wipe her hands on her apron, she saw flashes of the girl who used to chase kites across the rooftop. The girl who had once believed that love was enough. And sometimes, when Anaya caught her mother humming while she worked, she felt the weight inside her chest loosen a little more. They never spoke much about Rohan. The news eventually said he had been sentenced to prison. Anaya didn't attend the trial. There was no point in watching another person fall. One evening, as the sun sank into the sea, Mira sat outside on the porch, her phone in her lap. Anaya came out with 2 cups of tea. You still keep that number? She asked with a small smile. Mira chuckled softly. It reminds me of patience. Do you remember 2 missed calls? Anaya winced. I remember every ring. Mira took a slow sip of tea, eyes on the horizon. Then remember this too. Love doesn't answer out of fear. It answers when it's ready to forgive. Anaya nodded. And you've forgiven me? Mira looked at her, eyes glistening in the sunset. I forgave you the moment I left. That's why I could walk away without hate. They sat together in silence as the waves rolled in. The air smelled of salt and wet earth, the same scent that had filled the night Mira had walked away with her suitcase. Only now there was no bitterness left, just peace. Hash hash hash, asterisk asterisk, epilogue, asterisk asterisk, months later, when their center received its first government grant, Anaya framed the approval letter and placed it beside the small temple in the cottage. The same diya that had gone dark in the old house now burned again, steady and bright. Every evening she called her mother before locking the doors. Mira always answered, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. On the anniversary of her leaving, Anaya asked quietly, Ma, do you ever regret walking out that night? Mira smiled, setting her teacup down. No, Beta. Walking away was the only way I could come home to myself. She looked at the sea, then back at her daughter. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer, and sometimes walking away is the sweetest revenge.